I think there is no question when saying that with any Roblox game, there is controversy. It's just like a moth to a flame. Whether it's Meep City and Condo Games for its terrible problem with sexual content, to another game's horrible monetization issues, or even threatened lawsuits because of a pet simulator game. A lot of these controversies, at least for me, I like to say came from the outside, which means yeah, the developer started it by making a horrendous choice, but the community ultimately sparked the outrage. A unique type of drama that you don't see every day would be something forming from the inside, a whistleblower, if you will. And there are many such cases in Roblox and even real life where a whistleblower exposed everything. And such is the supposed case for a game called Kivotos Battlegrounds. So, what is Kivotos Battlegrounds, you might ask? Well, imagine a hero shooter like Overwatch with blue archive characters and all of that being on Roblox. Now, if you're even familiar with the Blue Archive community and the Roblox community, you will know that merging these two can be kind of catastrophic. But that's exactly what Place, the creator of KBG, did. There was a migration from an alpha version of the game to the beta with a few updates and such. KBG has a checkered history, but the most official release was on May 28, 2024. But the one that most people will know about is on February 2nd, 2025, and before that date, the team grew a lot during that process, with a few other devs as well as few people in the alpha community joining, such as two individuals named Derpario and Slippery, along with others, but we'll get to that. Keep in mind there was another full-on drama that happened between the Chinese community of the game and another group in the game, but that can be discussed a bit later. Near the end of this entire history thus far, I joined as well as a developer, but that was only 2 to 3 months ago. I didn't even have moderator perms until 4 weeks ago, since everything happened. So what is the drama, you might ask, and who is this whistleblower? Well, it's none other than the person I just mentioned, not me, but Derpario, the former map maker for KBG. While a lot of people have seen the original tweet that Derp posted on the official KBG Twitter account that has since been deleted, the original notice was actually released in the KBG tester server on September 29th, which was a server for playtesters to give direct feedback to the developer or developers. It was also pretty toxic, but let's not get into that. And from now on, I'm going to be calling playtesters testers. So the notice goes like this. I, Derpario, as a representative, sent a request to the Associates of Roblox Corporation, had started an investigation within Kivotos Battlegrounds, and had reached the conclusion. Placer, the current owner of Kivotos Battlegrounds, is under review as accomplice of MX Sila Yauwu. I'll be calling them Alterod for the rest of this video. Whose previous records of multiple violations of Roblox's community standards, directing users off platform, evading safety and security systems, romantic and sexual content, despite the multiple violations, Alterod is still in charge as moderators of Kivotos Battlegrounds and its official Discord server. This concludes that Placer has completely violated Roblox community standards, harmful off-platform speech or behavior for being associated with organized crime. And this is the big hitter that a lot of people latched onto. Unless there is confirmation of Alterod's violating Roblox community standards being false 24 hours before the received date, Placer must comply and respond via terminating Alterod of Kivotos Battlegrounds and any of his or her involvements. This includes the experience and contents inside, promotional materials, official Discord servers, and must announce the termination of Alterod with the above violations stated publicly. Failure to comply after 4 weeks of the notice will result in further investigation of Placer and Kivotos Battlegrounds, as well as a temporary suspension of Placer's Roblox developer exchange, and the fail conditions are listed below. Now, you may be wondering, why am I showing you the Discord message and not the official doc that a lot of people saw? And also, why is the grammar here and capitalization kind of wonky? Well, I'll talk about the second question first. This was partially translated using Google Cloud's translation API, aka Google Translate, and Derp has stated that this is because it would cost money to have a translator and he communicated to most parties in Vietnamese. Thus, he just used Google Translate along with his knowledge of English to Vietnamese. Also, for the keen viewers with good memory, you will notice that right here it says failure to comply after 4 weeks, while in the document it says failure to comply after 2. Now, I will talk about why this bugs me later on when I talk more about the notice, but just for now, this is what came out. So shortly after Derp released this notice, Place promptly banned him, Slippery, Purple Sleepy, as well as Alter, and not Alterod. I'll be calling Alterod Alterod for the duration of this video, on grounds of defamation as well as being caught in the crossfire. Hence, the tweet where it talked about how Place violated this, and 4 weeks later, the video that just released. I think it's also important to keep in mind that this entire statement came out when the entire Schlut drama happened. So a lot of people just latched onto this entire statement without really having a second thought. And if I wasn't a developer or any part of the community, I might have done the same. If you're wondering why it took me more than a few days to make this video, believe me, I did my due diligence with this, and I'm also busy with school, so. Now, before we take a look at this video, I think we need some ground facts to be set into place, no pun intended. I do think Place can sometimes handle problems really poorly and not give things much second thought at times, which can cause hell of a lot of miscommunications. Believe me, a lot of this could have been much more peacefully resolved. Alter is still weird, in my opinion, and his moderation style is fairly weird at too sometimes. I think that if he stays a mod, he should still be put into check, and he should still have quite a few more restrictions. And there are a lot of things that Derp explained to me, but that was more about the investigation, and he told me not to share it because it's kind of classified. Which means he shouldn't share it to me either, but like, let's move on. Also, I'm a developer for Kivotos Battlegrounds, but at the same time, I barely have anything at stake aside from the fact that I've had fun being a developer for the game. I barely get paid. I didn't even have moderator permissions in any of the Discord servers until this drama sparked. Genuinely, I barely have anything at stake when it comes to taking either side. I'm just going to be presenting what I found, and also it's just really hard not to be biased when one side just can't and won't say or provide me anything. So I did do my due diligence when it comes to getting a lot of sides of the story, but again, take what I say with a grain of salt. You should do that for every story you hear, to be honest. Alright, with that out of the way, let's get on with the video. Alright, so Derp's video does have quite a few grammar mistakes because he's from Vietnam, and he does stutter a lot because in his Q&A on the description, it did say it's because of autism. So I went through the task of transcribing the entire video into a doc with a screenshot of most of the visuals included as well as a few grammar fixes. So you're going to see a full screen of each screenshot. These screenshots on the doc is just for my reference. Also, I was planning on going chronologically through the video, but for the sake of understanding each point specifically, I classified general timestamps and sorted them into categories to if they relate more to Alter and the notice or just to Place's character. I also put timestamps for myself and Akko as well. Due to what I think is the most severe, I'm going to be talking about categories for Alter first, and then I'll go over Place, and then me and Akko. However, even after all of that, we still start at the very beginning of the video, which just summarizes 4 weeks before the publication of the video that we're going to be talking about, which was that Kivotos Battlegrounds was hit with the notice, and that included the removal of the requested assets from the original owners. And 2 weeks after that notice was published, the game was taken down due to a DMCA strike. So obviously, Place broke the notice by banning Derp, and we went over how Derp stated the grammar issues were because he had to talk to a lot of people in Vietnamese, thus he had to use Google Translate so he didn't have to spend more money on the investigation. So just off the top of that, I do have a few concerns. I get that a legal notice doesn't usually have screenshots, but sure as hell does have a form of ethos or a reference to an official department. Neither Roblox nor VNG signed on this, it's literally just a signature. Yes, investigations do cost money, but those are for private investigations. Starting an investigation in Vietnam, if through Roblox or the police, is free. This is the case for America too. I'm unsure if VNG holds this, but Place does live in America, so. Also, the wording for when Derp said that the DMCA takedown was part of the notice can be misinterpreted, in my opinion. Yes, it was part of the notice that he wrote, but was it a legally binding clause? Well, if having to file a separate ticket is, then yeah, I guess so. Yes, I know Derp says it's due to a legal obligation in the screenshot, but why would you need to file a separate ticket if this is part of the investigation's legally binding notice? Also, this is the swiftest of the tickets. Place is still part of the developers exchange and it's been weeks. Just by banning Derp, Place violated the notice, and we only use the 4 weeks as a sort of grace period just to be generous. That 4 weeks is usually if Place doesn't respond in 4 weeks. The next part about this section is just talking about how he's going to be also talking about Place and then about me and Akko. So for a lot of these, I'm just going to be talking from the outside point of view just because I'm not really involved in a lot of these, but for mine in particular, I'm going to be a lot more direct because, you know, it's about me. Alright, so now we skip to around the 3-minute mark of the video when it talks about the banning of Tosha and Nyennyo. These were 2 pretty active members in the community, and Place banned them for mocking the victims of condo games, but more so it was about joking about condos, underage victims, and sexual exploitation. Also, for a bit of quick context, Place also banned Slippery, who I talked about before, for doom posting about Project Archive. So Derp actually mentioned 3 of those bans because he claims that they have exactly the same person who did all of those, gets off scot-free, and is currently the moderator for the KBG Discord. Now, before I say anything, I think it's pretty important to discuss that this is the main bread and butter of the entire video, or at least it should be. And before all that though, I'm not too sure about Nyennyo's case, but Tosha has been unbanned. Place himself said that it was a temporary ban, as him discovering what Tosha was saying. Although in my opinion it was like a nothing burger because a lot of people were joking about it, it did lead to a new rule in the server. Again, timeouts exist for a reason, but then comes my biggest problem with Place in a lot of these situations, which is that he doesn't really think twice, but the past is in the past, so. Alright, and then here is one of Derp's heaviest claims, in my opinion, which is that after a little bit of digging, he has a bunch of favorited games on Roblox with fetishes, sexual content, and e-dating sites. If this is true, this is disgusting. And when I checked myself through Alter's favorited games list, yeah, it's true, but not in the way that you think. So I looked into Alter's favorited games, where Derp also looked, and I also found Fur Infection, Transfer Outbreak, Latte Transfer, Project Transfer. If you're wondering why I put numbers on all of these, it's actually because I found these favorited games before Dream vs Technoblade on page 16. And you're gonna notice that a common pattern in almost all of these games is that they were released around 3 to 4 years ago. Alter is currently 17. Now you may be wondering if he just found a game late, but again, all the games came out around the same time, 2021 or earlier. I also did more research and found 2 games before Dream vs Technoblade, which was Project Transfer and Blue Tear's Haunted House, which was on page 7 and page 12. However, a lot of these games also have similar release dates. And who the fuck is favoriting FNAF Security Breach in 2024 or 2025? Like, come on. So let's just use a 3-year difference instead of 4 to be generous. Alter would be 14. Am I in shock that the game Dream vs Technoblade made me realize this? Yes I am. Also for Aquafeet Hangout. Come on man, look at the community we're in. And then Derp talks about the hypocrisy of Alter doom posting, but we're going to go more into that when we actually go into the situation that got Slippery banned for doom posting. All I can say is for the dev Q&A part, I think I, out of all people, along with 4 others, have a better say for the dev Q&A part, which is I should post in that channel too. I put my 2048 scores in there. Also, if we're ranting about testers, not a lot of people like talking to a brick wall. Sorry, a surprise! This section also talks about how Derp worked with the publisher, which is VNG, as well as Roblox themselves a little bit. And after the notice was sent, Alter started spreading information. Whether it was true or not, he never mentioned anything about it. And then he provides a screenshot where Alter says that they are false. maybe I'm reading things wrong. I swear the SAT wasn't this hard. Also, people in that server around that time were supporting him. It isn't even a 1v0. I don't know why you're trying to make this a versus. It's just a dude being shocked at what the fuck happened. Let a man be. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Now is actually a good time for me to bring up this side note that Dirk brought up about, like... Okay, so in this, Alter, like, started, like, freaking out because apparently he thought he was getting doxxed from 4chan DDoS video. Okay, yeah, Alter was just low-key a dumbass for that. He told me himself that was a mistake. But I think it's like this was sent during the entire notice just being released. Like, of course he's not in the good headspace. Like, what the fuck? Ben goes into sort of a Q&A through pictures and text about some of the questions about the investigation. So I'll just go through each one. The first one was, why was the game removed? Which, failure to comply with the notice. Yep, that's true. And we talked about how it was through a separate ticket. Question 2 was, why hasn't the investigation released any results yet? And that was contacting with Roblox is a pain, and they literally made me wait 3+ weeks for a Nothing Burger update. But we're still working on it. And then he sends a screenshot of him with Roblox and how there are 11 emails. It's been weeks. And it looks like this ticket was made near September 20th. That is an initialization ticket. That's way after the Alter notice came out. Also, you're working with VNG. Why are you making Roblox support tickets for these? If this email was under question 1, I'd understand because that would be around the general date of the DMCA takedown, but this is way after. Also, there was another support ticket Derp sent during the very first section, and here's the full screenshot. Now, this is earlier, which means Derp had 2 separate tickets. I highly doubt an investigation is only 6 emails though, especially if it costs you money. By the way, Roblox does send a lot of automated emails once you submit a ticket. When I sent one just to see the validity of what was going on, I got 4 emails just automatically before I send an email, and then it adds another one. If you're wondering about the status of the ticket, Roblox said they escalated it to another department, and oh look, it's 14 emails long. Yeah, 6 emails isn't shit. Also, why is your main subject for this Roblox? Wasn't it VNG with a bit of Roblox? VNG has means to moderate too, by the way. So for question 3, like I said, he did share some stuff with me. I'm fairly sure just it's a bit allowed, except for some parts where it could be kinda the fine line. But it is worth noting, and stuff that I think is safe, I will briefly talk about it. And now we go to the 6-minute mark. Sorry, I know, big jump. This is my first time making these types of videos, but I swear, hopefully this will just be a lot more concise after we start knocking more sections down. So this section was more about Derp questioning Place about if he's so sure about having no evidence against himself, then why would he archive 3 KBG general chats, 2 tester chats, and even more base general chats. So enough rhetorical questions, I just asked Place directly. Basically, Place says that it was because of new rules, different pings, and he once accidentally just pinged everyone. Like I said, he was 16, 17. And then if you're wondering, hey, what about the tester server? What happened to that? Well, Derp gave Place's reason why he blocked everyone except him and the devs from accessing the channels, and it was so that people couldn't delete messages since the entire crisis happened. But if he's talking about why he just hid them from us devs at the start, that being the ones with Paladin in the name, by the way, they were more of an old tester relic / lounge. A lounge that Derp had full access to, and a lot of the old testers were using regularly. They talked mad shit about a lot of players, by the way. Also, quick side note before I talk about the ERP channel deletion thing. Place has on numerous occasions given access to all those chats and old tester sites, notably to Slippery and Frost. I can't say what archive channels were available back then or if they were even archived at all, but when I asked for them, he happily gave them to me. So that's actually a pretty good segue into my next part, which is I did get access to that old KBG general that got archived because presumably Alter was role-playing in not a safer work way. And I actually saw the exact messages from where that's from. And basically that screenshot is talking about Alter being a more strict mod, at least to my interpretation. I could be wrong, who knows? But if you go back to KBG General, you'd find that no one's actually really calling Alter out on anything, except for the fact that maybe he was just way too complacent. I went back to the old archive chat, and yeah, he was way too complacent, and that is something bad if you're a mod. I also got in contact with someone who was in the general chat and chatting when the purge happened, so they saw the before and after, and they confirmed that Alterod didn't do shit, the server members did. Again, Alterod didn't really do his job, that means, until it was probably too late, but, you know, probably shouldn't go throwing around allegations like that. You could just say he's a bad mod, like. So I think a good way to take a slight breather is to actually backtrack a bit to when the notice first came out in the server, and specifically when Place banned Slippery, Purple Sleepy, and Alter, not Alterod. So Place did blame the 3 bans as part of a crossfire, and after more thought, Slippery and Purple Sleepy were actually listed in the notice. So Place just assumed that they were also in on this. No matter what they said, like, you can lie, so he called it crossfire, but remember, Blue Archive players, social skills, you know, they don't really match. So an interesting part about this section as well was that Derp called Place out for not having the Q&A in his doc. So let's just go through these because we really don't have much to hide. So question 1 is already weird. Place is in DevX. You need an email to be in DevX. As for question 3, why the fuck is it in the public chat and not any sort of contact directly to Place beforehand? That'd be a much more frequently asked question. So then after you didn't read the notice again, I'll just say it to you. You're going to notice that Alter isn't actually in the notice. So Derp says that Place tried to justify Alter's ban in specific for quote-unquote bullying a certain user, which Place put in his own document about the false notice. Hi, so the recording for this actually got fucked up, but it was just about how Derp said that it's funny that Place brought up this screenshot in the document because this was just joking about nerfing Serena, which when I read back, yeah, it's joking about nerfing Serena. However, in the video, it does say, for better context, we were talking about how weak her base kit was, but her ult was absurdly broken. So maybe it's just Derp not remembering correctly, but they did not mention a single fucking thing about Serena's kit before this, and I have the chat log to prove it. So if you actually look at all the mentions of Serena on August 26, 2024 in Paladin's discussion, you get one message, which is exactly that message. Make sure to nerf Serena in front of them. There was never another message about that. I know that it's obviously meant to be a joke, but I guess this is just me being petty, so. Alright, and now that we have all that context out of the way, let's go with the screenshots. So we're going to first see that Derp says the Redacted is never even about anyone, and it was an inside joke to avoid harassment for anyone to begin with. And then right under it says also we told Karma to stop harassing to said person since he kept bringing it in VC. So it was about someone. My best guess is that it's about a certain person in a certain time. Like, it changes. I was actually able to get into contact with one of the people that Redacted was referring to, and it definitely did not do jack shit for avoiding harassment, by the way. Here's what she had to say. I'll be censoring her name because it's a bit of a backstory and it's also quite personal. With that in mind, keep in mind that it will most likely be biased. And just for reference, we can just refer to as this person's ex. So it first starts with him joining KPG on an alt, and shit happens, you know, classic drama. And basically what does happen afterwards is that he gets close with a lot of the other prominent members in the community, which led to them shit-talking her a lot in main court, calling her Redacted. Shit talk is shit talk. Like, just because you're saying Redacted, it doesn't do shit. So again, keep in mind, these are witness testimony, which is always subject to bias. However, at what point does Redacted just become another way to call someone something and just like change practically nothing? Best case scenario is if you bring it up in main court or a public server, no one outside of the tester group will catch on. But even 5 to 6 people can harass someone. It doesn't have to be an entire server. Alright, and finally, the final thing about Alter before we move on. This Alter guy has 3 alt accounts, and Derp only knew 3 of them. I just somehow magically got all 3 just because I did this thing called asking, and yeah, so He states that 2 of those accounts were for quote-unquote getting a strike for being involved with a pedophile server, and yep, that does sound suspicious, but let's go into it. So don't take this as conclusive proof whatsoever, but I do have a friend who knows one of the developers for Rocleaner. If you don't know what Rocleaner is, it basically is a Discord bot that can auto-ban people from certain Discord servers if they are flagged for joining a condo server in the past. So keep in mind though that the database is fairly old, but it is very much within the bounds of Alter's alts, and nothing pops up. In fact, Alter's second alt account isn't even banned. He just said it was. It's in fact restricted, which in this case, being a member of a server that turned out to have a bad owner or just have content that broke Discord TOS could definitely lead to your account being restricted. Fuck, Shadow's account just got restricted. Like, if it was a ban, I'd be suspicious because you can't get banned for that unless you actively partook in those activities, but restrictions are very much possible. Also, my friends get banned on Discord all the time, so like... Also, if you're wondering about why the screenshot Alter gave me says March, but the screenshot that Derp gives says February, Discord can change restriction lengths. I checked with all of Alter's accounts and each account standing in violation, and yeah, none are in February. In fact, actually, Alter gave me each of his accounts, and the one that he talks about was personal. He was groomed. So, and then the second one is the one we talked about, and then the third one is for self-endangerment, which you can't really get if you were a pedophile. That would be child endangerment if anything. Alright, and now we're done with Alter's part. Congrats if you made it this far, but we got a few more to go. So now we're going to be talking about Derp's video that was in regards to more specifically place. So the first one is actually at 45 seconds. Like I said, the document's like pretty disjunct. So this is talking about how on May 28th, 2024, yep, the KBG beta was released. After that date though, Place suddenly communicated with them less, and he turned from a usual guy to like just working on the game less until he said that he lost passion about the game. So after he lost passion, yep, the KBG beta was cancelled, and after a matter of time, Project Archive was released. And Project Archive was the product of a lot of the Chinese players that got banned. They banded together in order to make Project Archive. However, after Project Archive was published, Place suddenly just became motivated again, according to Derp, and he starts publishing game news in Tester Chat, and yep, things pretty much go from there, as Derp says. So he states that this is weird because, well, didn't Place admit to not having any passion for Blue Archive? Are we dead ass? Okay, so if I had a comment for this section, I'd say it's retarded. How much do you have to overanalyze someone with the conclusion already formed in your head that this person is an asshole to criticize them for getting passion or motivation for a game again? Genuinely, like, for context, this is the first point that Derp starts out with in the video. Even if Place just started developing for the game again because of Project Archive, why would that matter? It's literally just competition. Hell, Place even helped out some of the Project Archive devs. I had to blur them just because, but yeah. Also, I find it funny that Derp, out of all people, is the one that's like calling Place out for Project Archive, when a huge reason a lot of Project Archive devs and players left KBG because of the drama that happened was because of the actions of him and the group that he's in. Alright, and now we're gonna talk about all the way back to the Doom posting one, where Slippery got banned for Doom posting. And this actually is like really odd, I gotta admit. I think it's pretty odd that this all happened. Basically, the context goes, well, Slippery was actually late on the party when it came to spamming PA1, and then suddenly Slippery got banned for Doom posting. And then Derp later used this point to talk about how Alter Doom posts, but he's not banned. So I spoke to Place about this, and his main reasoning was actually that he just wanted Slippery and a lot of other people in that group gone. Because, well, here's the screenshot that he posted, which is just, he just doesn't want them there. Do I agree with how he went about trying to establish that footing by just banning? Well, hell no. There's just something with Blue Archive players and having the social skills of a mute snail. I feel like this is actually going to be sort of a recurring pattern or event in a lot of this, which is that Place has a bunch of mixed feelings about the community he let build up, and he just wanted them gone in this case. So now we're going into, well, PA, and notably when Derp stated that after the notice was sent, Place sent a DM to one of the developers of Project Archive, which was Inuni, and he started apologizing for not looking over things thoroughly. So Derp is questioning why did Place suddenly start begging to the Project Archive devs for apologization, especially if Place isn't the type to go back on his word immediately. First of all, the CNBA drama was almost a year ago, so it's not immediate. And second, maybe he just realized the gravity of the situation that happened and how bad things actually were. I actually talked to Place about this, and here's what he had to say. So in the screenshot here, it's talking about how there was just beef between the CN members and the group that we were just talking about. And he's talking about how he should have just removed the group, which is Derp, Slippery, and Chioi, Purple Sleepy, a long time ago. And that's about it. That was his apology. Also, I talked to Inuni about this because, well, he's in the screenshots, and well, he didn't send this to Derp like in a malicious way. He sent it to an individual named Toho first, who may have sent it to Derp. So this isn't a like, guess who texted me, bro? I hate this guy, let's laugh at him. It's not that type of moment. Inuni just gave those screenshots to Toho so that Toho could share it with the C and Blue Archive community. That's about it. Cause like, I don't know, but like if this notice is fake, like the fact that somebody put out a fake notice could be a huge reality check. Like, it might be just me personally, but... So with my conversation with Inuni, well, this was actually in the past, but I actually did ask for his take on the entire drama with the Chinese community from a year ago. And basically, this is going to be biased again, take it with a grain of salt, but basically what happened was that there was a major incident during an official tournament. So there was a Vietnamese team, like the Vietnamese community, and then the Chinese community. And the Vietnamese community started targeting the Chinese community, and eventually they were banned, but they only just became more aggressive. What was really like a shocking point was the fact that, well, Place was just neutral in all of this. And to make matters worse, Slippery, Derp, and Purple Sleepy, they just escalated the situation. And there's also a Bilibili post about this, which also corroborates that, saying that all they did was really insult them for any feedback that they had. It's also important to note that Place gave me that Bilibili post, and well, neither side is perfect. Like, the Chinese players, they use really strong words. I'm not here to dictate who was right or who was wrong in this situation during that time. I honestly think both sides probably made mistakes. I just find it odd that Derp never mentioned that he was one of the biggest figures in that drama. Okay, so this was actually Derp's second point. Why did he suddenly have all these screenshots laid out really quickly too? And why was he on board with the decision of banning every single important figure in the C and Blue Archive community? Alright, let's go through this point by point. So why did he have these screenshots laid out like he was saving it? He didn't. He just took them. All of the screenshots in his original doc show that he was just looking for keywords. As for banning every single important figure in the C and Blue Archive community, Place banned the Chinese players for targeting. As for the Discord bans, Place did approve of the ban, but this was because he wanted the drama over with and just went with what the people he trusted were saying. Also, notice the message the mod is replying to asking for permission. The person he's replying to is Purple Sleepy, who I talked about. But why did Place agree with Purple Sleepy if he had a problem with the group? And what are these messages that Derp showed right here? So this basically shows that Place can be kind of a hypocrite. He's honestly doing a bit of shit talking. Well, here's Place's statement in this. And it's just talking about how, well, he was 17 and he just wanted to fit into at least one group since the entire community was splitting. Honestly, it's kind of sad. Like, Place and I are around the same age, by the way. You can just say that it's him being socially awkward and that it's him being careless. But that still doesn't mean that he was ever malicious about this, as Derp is trying to point this out to be. So what did Place actually go through in this entire situation? So here is a theory, or more of a mock-up that I made, and it was confirmed by a Project Archive dev and Place himself. So let's just go through what I think happened in Place's point of view. So Place was pretty negligent about this entire situation until it got too big and it blew up in his face. He just trusted his mods and friends at the time, that being Purple Sleepy and Slippery and Derp, and that is why he approved of the mass ban and executed that mass ban, since he didn't really know how much was going on, since, you know, he was inactive. After the split, Place just decided to stick with the group, which was Derp, Slippery, and Purple, since the Chinese community basically left. He never really looked into things further and just assumed that the group he was in was mostly in the right. Now that Derp posted that video and noticed, Place realized that the group is actually just made of horrible people, so he looked into things further, found out, and that is why he apologized to Inuni and by extension the Chinese Blue Archive community. It's still important to note, however, that the Chinese Blue Archive community isn't even completely in the right. It's probably 50-50, in fact. However, Place is most likely more apologizing for the fact that he just approved and executed on banning everybody. It should never have even been like that. Derp also mentioned that Place actually partook in the conversations where they were using the N-word and such, and the screenshots, well, he never typed it or said it. Well, the note is saying that he was in the conversations, so yeah, but Place's claim in the doc about like how they were racist and he showed examples of them using the N-word, that it wasn't the greatest piece of evidence, honestly, because I know a lot of people who also use that word and they're pretty chill. So Place told me himself that he never initiated the trash talk, he was just more so going with a conversation. And then the I knew it part at the bottom right corner, that is just him responding to what they were talking about. So based off all of this, do I agree with Derp? Do I think that Place is a snake? No, he didn't even have emergency blackmail. If anything, Place is just sort of negligent. That's about it. Well, on top of being negligent, he can also sometimes not think before he acts. That's like the most I could really find. The other stuff, it's mostly just him wanting to fit in. Like, he's 17. Like, I know I'm 18, so I can't really talk like that because, like, I'm only a year older than what he was, and we're the same age now, but, you know, shit happens when you're a teenager, I guess. I don't. Also, in Derp's video, he talks about how Place was in said server for each of the claims he showed, which is how, you know, he even found the messages through the find function. And you're going to notice that Derp says they were from a private group chat. I'm guessing he meant more like a private group chat, as it served as a form of one. And I guess this could be more into like, he leaked the group chat, but you made a fucking claim saying that he was part of organized crime. What do you expect, bro? Alright, and now we're going to go into Derp's statements to me, Akko, and I guess this is just like the final end notes and stuff like that. So this, I said I'm going to be much more direct, so oh boy. Alright, Chicken, the fact that you are not only disrespecting but belittling all my works for the game down to literally just referring to me as a playtester who happened to make maps is some rich kid arrogant tier. Holy shit. Yeah, no, I'm not that rich. Like, I'm a college student, so I'm low-key broke. But I get your point though, so I'll just go through, well, my point of view one by one. So the most shit talk I've done to your maps was saying that the maps contribute to the balancing issue for a lot of characters like Aru, because, well, you know, not blocking enough sightlines and stuff like that. If you get upset at me for calling you a tester who made maps, forgive me if I'm wrong, but it was probably, I think it was about a discussion about how I think we need more testers and how the current roster of testers gives biased suggestions, which is inevitable. Any group of 6 to 8 people will be biased eventually. And you were part of the testing sessions, which is why I referred to you as that. But to be honest, since it upsets you this much, you probably remember what I did a lot better than I do. So as for the website announcement, my bad. Well, the game was taken down and everything was like already happening, so I just thought I could make fun of the situation a little bit. As for the second half, the only real time I removed any other work related to the game was because, well, it was in your takedown. This goes for my website as well. And if you're talking about the lobby and how I replaced a few posters and stuff like that, you were in the VC with me. in that VC, if you requested that a poster stayed, or you said, oh, this poster is important, I respected that. I kept that. So if that's what that is about, then you shouldn't really talk about how Place was in VCs with the group, and thus that made him okay with everything that was going on, you know? And then Derp talks about Akko. Akko, if you don't know by the way, is another dev for KBG, so my coworker. And Derp complains that she keeps forcing herself into any situation and starts acting like a grand leaders. Did you not want better moderation for the server? That's what Akko's trying to do. If this is about the Minecraft server, which he did mention, it was officially promoted in the server. If something bad happens, ultimately it makes the server, and by extension the game, look bad. Akko's a moderator, by the way, so... And for the salty shirt incident, Derp claims that she was on par with the idea to bully a 15-year-old on the internet. And this is the screenshot he uses. What? This screenshot proves nothing. She's questioning what the fuck is going on. And Derp says, well, her first reaction was, is this how the community reacts? Which, let's read that exact message. If the community reacts that way towards one user enough to alienate them for something they aren't doing wrong on the staff level, I have a giant issue with that. What? You have a problem with that? That's subhuman behavior? So I talked with Akko about this afterwards because, you know, I'm trying to get everyone's statement. And Akko's kind of confused as well. She says that Salty was banned for jack shit, and people were just like toying with him and rage baiting him before ultimately banning him. And she understands that Salty was like kind of, you know, he was stepping on people's toes, and he was tossing games if a character that he wanted to play wasn't available to play, and that Salty should get in trouble for that. But that's where like she stopped agreeing, and she never even bullied Salty to begin with. She was heavily against his ban because it made 0 sense, and basically, yeah, she just didn't like how the community was treating him. Like, I don't know where Derp is getting the on par with bullying a 15-year-old kid on the internet. You're judging the favorite games of a kid that was 13, 14 at the time. So Derp also brought up Sum, or Sumshigi, who is pretty prominent in the community, I'd say. And that's it. So then Derp talks about the community's reaction to all of this. I'm not gonna go too deep into that, except Astrum got a fucking stray. Wait, did he actually private his video? Yo, alright. So Astrum, did you... Alright, we're just gonna go through this one by one. Did you private your video?
No, I did not. I never private my videos, or at least I don't try to.
Alright, so okay, so I know we talked prior, but you said you unlisted the video. Why did you unlist it?
If you're talking about the whole like KBG situation, it's literally nothing related to that. I unlisted that video due to me making that video as an experiment. That is not the usual video format that I do, and I unlisted that because I was just not proud of it. Even if you say that shit's funny, I didn't like it at all.
It was kind of funny.
It might be funny, but like it was just, it felt missing. A lot of things were missing, and it has nothing to do with the whole KBG situation, which I think is the most stupidest fucking thing I've ever seen, by the way.
Damn. I spent an entire weekend investigating that. Well, how could you call it stupid, bro? Alright, so I think I'm going to say it right here. Well, Derp, your contributions for the game, they were massive. Without you, KBG wouldn't be as big as it is today. Or was, because, you know, the game's gone. However, you can be talented, do a lot, and still be an asshole. We can be grateful, but also just think you aren't a good person. So, what do I think about this entire thing? So, I think Alter is not a great moderator for the server. If he doesn't get demoted, he should at least have more restrictions or be put more into check, if that makes sense. I also think Place is fairly negligent, and he doesn't really think twice, and that gets further exacerbated when he's basically inactive for a lot of situations until it's too late, it blows up in his face, and since he doesn't really think twice about a lot of the situations that he's in, he just does the quickest thing available. That is why he just banned the entire Chinese community without much second thought, and also why he made that Google document where a lot of it wasn't that substantial. However, that is their greatest sin, I guess. I actually got a concern from one of my friends about how I'm really not involved in this situation at all, so why would I be talking about this? Well, just the fact that a 17-year-old is getting defamed, and the fact that he wasn't able to take it well, and the fact that this just came out again, and that's obviously not going to help out in that matter. Even if I think that he's weird and annoying, it doesn't sit right with me. So that's why I'm making this video. I know I'm barely even involved in this, but I just think that this is the right thing to do. So, and with that, that's mostly everything. Actually, you know what? The videos are long enough. I can do more. Alright, so apparently Derp also makes fun of the maps that Akko and I are currently making that are a work in progress. So this is blooper number 3.
Also, I decided to check out the maps from KBG after like my departure, and obviously I take all the maps.
Alright, yep, the work in progresses, right?
Bro, why am I staring?
Yep, that's a work in progress. That's a work in progress.
Like, what the fuck is that?
That's a work in progress.
Am I staring like a 2050 fucking Roblox?
That's a work in progress.
Seaside Tycoon or some shit. It's kind of. Why is this so fucking bright night? Oh
it's a work in progress. Those are placeholders.
Trees from like Pokemon Brick Bros.
Brick Bros is goated. No, you are not disrespecting my goat. Well, that was fun. Also, by the way, every map that's ever made starts off with blocks, and then like you just like add more layers onto it. So like they're called sneak peeks for a reason, dumbass. All right, and now let's go read some of the comments because, well, you know, okay, so here's Salty Shirt. We talked about him before. So he actually edited his comment, but right, let's read this. Hey, it's me again, but this dude ain't the one to talk. He was also involved in my incident, and he's also responsible for what happened to us a long time ago. I'm wanting the truth out about this dude. I know you're trying to play innocent and you're accusing the people that were defending me, even though you're wanting them to not expose the truth out here. Yep, that's why I'm here, I guess. And right here, I guess some people actually did call out Derp about the fact that Akko was not on par with bullying a 15-year-old. Like, he's pulling that out of his ass. There's also this one comment that, like, is kind of interesting, which is, I won't even bother trying to counter-argue all the stuff you're framing in favor of you and your friends to make KBG look evil. Grow up. And then, oh, look at, you know who this is? Oh, that's Purple Sleepy. That's Purple Sleepy. You know, that's Purple Sleepy. So let's just read the response. When proof gets put in front of you, and well, I have 40 minutes on this video now, and you remain delusional, is crazy. Why did Place take a whole year to apologize to the CN community and let us ban all the prominent figures of the CN community? And then that means it's not sudden. Like, I understand that they probably can't read Place's mind, that he just wanted to not be ostracized from both groups. So yeah, I get that. But at the same time, can a man not like go back on his word or like realize the gravity of situations? Do you just have to stick to your one mindset? I mean, you probably do, but like, you guys want to claim Place isn't aware about Alterod, yet he's only few people that had access to Place's test place along with Bobby. I don't know who he is. He's clearly in a good relationship with Place and their buddies. Why do you think he got mod and remained untouched when he leaks Tester Daily and Doom Post, which Slippery got banned for? So let's go through this one by one. You guys want to claim Place isn't aware about Alterod? No. Place has stated that he is friends with Alterod. And, well, leaking Tester Daily, that's not like the biggest thing. Nobody really cares. And then the Doom posting thing, we went over that, you know? The entire dev team except Transient disregards Derp and Slippery's contributions on the game, and they didn't even get any credit for it. Other than just being a tester, and it's ridiculous. Okay, yeah. Okay. And just recently, he brought back the contributor role and then gave it to people that haven't contributed once before. They're in the process of contributing. It's a work in progress. Although they don't care about clout farming, they're just undermining the free labor work that they put into the game for 2 years. Yet all the other new guys came in and are getting paid. They're volunteering. That's just ridiculous, isn't it? Yeah, so also for the credit part, I don't really have much to say about that. The best I have is that one of Derp's friends did talk about how Derp didn't really want credit. Like I said, it's not definitive proof, so if Derp and Slippery wanted credit this whole time, then yep, I guess that's on place. So what do I think about this whole situation? Man, it's stupid. Well, if the notice is true, then this video will age really poorly, I guess. Like, hopefully nobody has gotten hurt, and if the notice is false, then, you know, hopefully Alter doesn't have any lasting impacts with this. Hopefully things return to normal. The people who did malicious things, they get brought to justice or they get called out. Hopefully this will just mark a new milestone for both parties involved, and they go their separate ways. In my opinion, they never fucked with each other to begin with. Like, honestly, like, some catastrophe was bound to happen. Like I said, Blue Archive and Roblox, like, you just can't mix those.